Hello everybody, so I'm back on Ouch Chimps looking at some more Mermonkey stuff with Arctic Knights, and I'm also going to be showing a really cool strategy that's actually very powerful that you could use very easily, which is the Arctic Knight and the Carpet of Spikes. It's definitely a lot better than the Energizer one, and I'll kind of talk about that kind of stuff. On top of that too, I do want to try like a super optimized Arctic Knight strategy on a map where it's really good on, and I do have a plan for that. The thing is that like a lot of maps, like or all the good maps that Arctic Knight is good on, they've already done an optimized run. Dark Dungeons it technically hasn't, but the one that I did a while ago is pretty much close to optimal of what it is now, which will be like 100 something odd cash spare, like 120 I think is, and less than that, like 116,000 I think is, I believe, what it could be pushed to. I already did 113k spare on Dark Dungeons, so I'm not quite interested in doing that whole ordeal again. But there is another map that I'm thinking of doing, which will be Sulphur Springs, which would be a Corvus Arctic Knight thing, which I kind of want to do optimize, take some good time on it. So that would be really cool. I kind of dread using Corvus, but I will get through it. So that's going to be something. But like Dorio did a really good one on Ravine, and I saw Cornfield did another Corvus one that was really powerful. So I'm excited to try it out and see how it goes. But for this one, I'm again looking at using the Arctic Knight on a map that doesn't have any walls, so it would just be bouncing off the map border and kind of seeing how that will go off. This definitely is going to be a more kind of looked at an optimized run using Oben, and I'll kind of talk about if Oben's actually really good, because in theory he is great for this strategy. So going past the early game and all, the setup is going to be pretty simple. Actually, I'm just going to have a whole handful of Arctic Knights, something to do a little bit extra against round 100 in DDTs, because that is kind of the critical weakness, and then that really should just be it. I'll have the Moab Shove to do some simple stalling and beat out this mid game with all these Moabs that are coming through, and then with all these Arctic Knight abilities, I can just use every ability and pop the bad. And then on top of this, I will be adding that Glue Strike again. That's going to help all the zebras at the top, because the zebras are still a huge issue, sadly. And then also we will have a Moab Glue later at the top to kind of be able to take out round 98 a little bit easier, just because the waves for Ouch 98 comes down from the top like really early, and the way that these projectiles just work, unlike other towers, everything goes down kind of at once. So if half the balloons are all the way like way forward and the other half aren't on the screen, it doesn't really work out that well, which is kind of annoying. It's something that's really exclusive to this map that I found, but I just had to get that Moab Shove and actually bolt runs that I'm going to showcase, the one with Carpet of Spikes 2 up there, just to kind of deal with that, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we'll get through it. And then that Spike Storm, obviously the strategy is weak to DDTs and more so weak to round 100, so that should be good for taking out round 100. And then when it comes to the hero Oben obviously is doing a great amount for this strategy. The Wall of Trees is really nice for the cleanup, and on top of that, just makes the projectile so much stronger. I also saw somebody say that I could use some two 4-0s in combination with 041, because that's really just used for early game. It's better at taking out DDTs, the 041, just because it has an inherent camo, so it can hit the DDTs from everywhere. But if I'm going to be using something like a Spike Storm or two, that should be able to handle DDTs enough, along with Oben's Wall of Trees, that I should be able to just get a few 240s instead and have that stronger against 98 and 100, which should be pretty good. So I didn't do that in this run because this run was recorded before I saw that comment, which I really like that comment, so shout out to whoever said that. But I will be taking a look at that in the run after, and it works out pretty well. I just have one or two of them for the early game because the C-game projectiles in the early game is so much stronger. It allows me to kind of like kill stuff in the early game without having to buy like an early game carry or something along the lines of that. But if you have a way to kind of deal with camo as well, if I have reactor here, it should just be pretty good doing it that way. Trying to get a stall on round 97 is obviously kind of impossible with this strategy, so that's something that's a little bit annoying. Unfortunately, I can't get a double tree up for round 98, which is something that would make something like this a lot better. So I am forced to get the Moab glue kind of because of that. If I had double tree, I could do a tree on each side and clean up both sides of the bottom with Oben, while everything else just died a little bit later. Fortunately, I am able to get a stall on around 98, and I can get all my things back, which is going to be really nice. For 99, I just used all the abilities and had that kill everything. This basically means I will not be getting a stall at all, but these abilities actually come kind of fast back. Unfortunately, 100 was still a much bigger issue than I thought, even with the abilities up, that I was forced to buy a full first strike on top of this setup. And this kind of hit me in the face that without walls, this is really bad against round 100. It's not just like a little bit bad. One Spike Storm didn't do. I needed a whole first strike. So yeah, we're going to need to kind of like rethink this if I want to make it an actually good strategy. Of course, with that setup, I could see that I needed a whole first strike. I could move some stuff around. Spike Storm isn't the greatest on Ouch 2. It really did help for the DDTs, but considering the way that I beat that, I think I could have maybe done without the Spike Storm and gone for the first strike instead. So stuff like that. So I decided, why not go all out and turn the Spike Storm into a carpet of spikes? This isn't obviously going to be the most optimal thing, maybe I want to say, but it is actually pretty fun and really cool, and it does work out pretty well. This carpet of spikes is going to take out round 100, and it will take out the DDTs, so you just have the those are not druids, what am I saying? The mermonkeys will just go ham on round 98 and 96 all they want, and it will kind of deal with that. Plus, Carpet Spikes will actually take out 97 pretty well, so that's another good thing, because on Ouch, 97 is brutal, especially with that Shove nerf, because I used to just rely on Shove to deal with 97 all the time on Ouch, but now that's something that we really can't get away with. So this is going to be doing really well, just destroying all of this stuff. And on to something that I will talk about now. Oben is not as good as I really thought for this strategy. I thought it would really make the projectile so much stronger, which I guess it's kind of true, but it doesn't do anything for round 100. It only does stuff for like 98 and a little bit against like 95 and stuff like that. But for 100, it doesn't really do anything to note, at least not if there's like walls shoulder to shoulder where it can go so fast that it will actually use its pierce on the single bad, which even then I don't think it really would. So Geraldo definitely is the best hero, and if it's really easy map, I guess Corvus is, or Corvus by default, because you don't have to spend money for cash bear stuff, but nobody likes Corvus, so Geraldo is really easy way. Just the rejuves will actually beat round 100, and then you can use the genies too. If the map is a little bit longer, you could maybe get away with 100 for a little bit of an easier price with a genie, plus some of the other items and utilities are just really good. It will make the early game a lot more annoying, which is going to be really fun, because the early game's really annoying with the Riptide champion, but it will be bearable-ish, I guess. For this run, I was again forced to buy a Moab glue up at the top. This actually should be completely cuttable from this run. I'm going to be honest, I did a terrible job with the tree abilities. I didn't get a tree actually up until late on 98, which is something, it definitely is possible to double tree this, especially with Carpet of Spike being able to kill around 97. I should have been able to kind of find a way to work around that on 96 through 98, but if I had that, I could cut that Moab glue. Other than that, everything else is pretty good. I needed a what is that, a alt buff to beat 100, but that's not too much money, I want to say, and then with that I can barely beat round 100. So over a few runs, I really learned a lot about this tower. It's really only amazing on maps with walls, but it's still pretty good on maps without walls. It's going to just be really hardcore if you're going to be doing something with Geraldo and getting a ton of cash spare, but you definitely can get some easy black borders if you're using a strategy with something like Carpet of Spike. Definitely a cool strategy, but it is a bug, so it will be fixed. The Arctic Knights definitely will still be very powerful on maps that have a ton of walls, but this is just something kind of fun to play with. And thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!